we really care about. But first, we are going to have a little fun with our leg of the ESPN Tournament Challenge. So, what if the NBA decided their champion with a single elimination tournament? You know, we're usually much more predictable than college ball, right? The #1 seed has won the title 4 out of the last 5 years in the NBA. Meanwhile, in the NCAA, #1 overall, they've only won 3 times since 2004. That's when they started seeding all teams despite their region. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much chaos we'd get if we started with an NCAA-style model here over in the NBA, but hey, now's as good a time as any to find out, right? We are calling it NBA Bracketology. We took the top 16 NBA teams by record. We threw them into a bracket to see what might happen if they got thrown into, now listen, this is what's different, a single game elimination tourney, neutral sites, NCAA style. That changes the equation. So take a look at the Houston Rockets region, since they are, of course, the #1 overall seed. We do this by record. They'd face off with the Spurs in the first round, who, you know, look, we just saw them play each other last night. They beat handily, 109-93. Chauncey, how worried would Houston be, though, if things changed and it was all on the table in a tournament-style extravaganza and you are coaching against Greg Popovich?
In a one-game series, I think the only worry that they have is if Kawhi Leonard comes back, and he's the Kawhi Leonard before the injury in the playoffs last year. However, we seen this movie just last night.
Right.
And the Rockets had no problem, no issues.
Yeah, you know, in past years, I would say, look out, the Spurs in one game can do anything. But these aren't those Spurs anymore, Rachel. And the one thing I keep thinking about, I remember when Tim Duncan retired, how many times did Pop tell us, Tim, the culture you all talk about that was created, it was Tim Duncan. And you go back and look what's happened since then. They have great players, they have all-stars, they have all those things, but nobody is Tim Duncan. By that I mean, he played hurt, you know this, the final 3 years with a terrible knee. We never heard about it. He never cared about numbers. He never cared about statistics. He never cared about all-star appearances.
He gave back money?
He took money. He took less money. So Kawhi Leonard isn't Tim Duncan. LaMarcus Aldridge isn't Tim Duncan. And that's not even a criticism because I'm not sure who else is. But I think it makes it really tough for them as their roster gets older. And their defensive numbers, by the way, are plummeting. Since January, rebounding percentage, 5th to 22nd. They were points in the paint. They were 6th in the league. They're 27th now. Second chance points, they were 12th. Now they're 27th. We know defensively they were good, but offensively, it's a struggle, man.
I mean, they just haven't had it. Obviously, a lot of injuries, and you mentioned Kawhi Leonard. The way that all those things Jackie's talking about, do you think the Pop legend of sort of, oh, it's been this whole streak where they've won at least 50 games, that's in jeopardy now? Is there any questioning of it, or is it just, hey, you know, it's a tough year, Kawhi got hurt, things happen?
I'll be honest with you. I think all of these stats
it's hard for me
that
to
you
even
mentioned,
get that question
all of that
out,
is
by the way.
attributed to Kawhi Leonard.
That's it.
It really is.
Yeah,
The
of course.
defensive stats, the offense. I mean, he's not Tim Duncan. There's
No,
there
because you know
was
what?
only been one of those.
And he wants to get paid, and I don't blame him.
And he should. He deserves to be
right.
paid.
I don't blame anything that
deserves to
Kawhi
be
Leonard
paid.
is. Absolutely.
Absolutely. He definitely does. But he's not Tim, but I'm telling you, Kawhi Leonard makes a big difference in the Pop. Mystique is still going on if that kid is healthy.
Right, I know. And it's hard for me to even, as I said, it's hard for me to even get the question out because we all know what a great coach Pop is. But I think, and Pop is the first one to tell you this, a coach depends on his players, and they just don't have the bodies this year.
Yeah,
I want to see who Twitter voted to advance. No surprise, it is indeed the Houston Rockets. So I want to move on to some of our other matchups because they get a little dicier. Our next matchup is between the 8th-seeded Cavaliers and the 9th-seeded Pelicans. Jackie, do you think Anthony Davis would, and I'm using the word expose loosely since it's already been exposed,
right.
Cleveland's inconsistent defense?
I think there's a good shot at this because, again, defensively, I was looking at the Cavs defensive stats a little more closely because I like to look at the stats. I was shocked to see that LeBron James, and if you go to the ESPN Real Plus Minus, his defensive Real Plus Minus is in the negative. I can't ever remember that. It's a negative 1.17. That was shocking to me. But here comes the but.
Okay.
I've learned through a long, long period of time of watching LeBron James, if it's one game, I'm never betting against him. Never. And I'm not starting now. Just not.
I will be honest with you. That's a very smart observation.
Thank you.
Anthony Davis would have his way in this game.
Right.
There's no question about it. You know, especially these guys. I mean, Cleveland's big guys are hurt, but even if they weren't, nobody can guard him.
Right.
Right.
But you're 100% right. You cannot. This is a one-game series, and it's LeBron James. I'm taking the Cavs for sure in this one-game series.
Where do you feel like the Cavs and scoring has been? Because obviously they got so much from Kyrie Irving. He is gone. They have not been able to replace those points. Kevin Love being hurt, of course, has been a big factor the second half of the season. You're talking about in an AD, LeBron, if they're both playing to their max potential, where's the scoring coming from Cleveland? You feel like LeBron could carry the whole load?
Well, LeBron is not just scoring himself. He's creating so many three-point opportunities for everybody else. And not only three-point opportunities, lobs at the rim for Larry Nance Jr. or whoever that big is. He's going to make them look better than maybe they are. It's LeBron James.
Yeah. Well,
AD, albeit he's great, he doesn't affect the game in that way.
All right, well, Twitter voted with you guys for the Cavs to beat the Pelicans. So let's move on to the 4th seed Celtics versus the 13 seed Clippers. Chauncey, you think Doc Stint in Boston helps the Clippers? I mean, look, again, one game. It's one game. Now, personnel has obviously changed.
It is one game. But I'm going to have to take the Celtics on this one. I mean, that Clipper team is ascending. It's a lot better. The energy, the spirit's different. But in a series kind of like this, you always have to look at who's the best player on the floor.
Right.
Kyrie's the best player on the floor. So I got to take the Celtics there.
I agree. I mean, you know, the Celtics offense has come and gone all season. And by the way, it will continue to come and go all season. But their defense has been their constant. And it's been really strong. Now, I will say this, a note of caution. A little known transaction here. Daniel Tice is out for the year with the torn meniscus. And I know people who don't follow the NBA that closely may say, well, that's fine, next man up and all that. He was a really nimble, athletic forward that really helped them on the defensive end. Now, Aaron Baines is the big, strong guy that you put in there, and his numbers, by the way, his defensive numbers are off the charts. But Daniel Tice gave you that ability.
They'll miss the skill set.
Yeah, they really will.
And
that's on the defensive end, and that's if you're the Celtics, that's your calling card.
Still waiting for some definitive news on Marcus Smart, too. That's going to have a huge impact on them. Twitter did indeed vote for the Celtics, and I want to get to our next couple matchups because this is where things start to get a little questionable. The Trailblazers against the 76ers. Again, one game, neutral site, 2 incredibly dynamic, exciting teams right now. Does the size of Philly present a matchup problem, Jackie, for Portland?
Absolutely. I would love to see this.
Wouldn't this be a fun game?
This would be a really, really fun game because of what Portland's been doing of late. They've been playing so great. But, you know, I'm going to go back to the big fella, Embiid, Simmons, these young guys. They almost, you remember this, when you're a rookie or a second-year player, you don't even know what's on the line.
Ignorance is bliss.
Right? I mean, Sam Cassell talks about that all the time because he won as a rookie with the Houston Rockets. And I think this would be true of this. These guys are all about positive self-talk. And McConnell, he would get in the grill of Damian Lillard and try to give him some problems. So I'm going to take the Sixers on this one.
What about you, Chauncey?
I don't know if I can take anybody. Damian Lillard
He's been unbelievable.
Has been on a tear. And
I agree.
The way that him and CJ, the synergy that they have, I will take them in a one-game series with these guys. I love the obviously, you know, the strength and the size of the 76ers, but and the inexperience may show up, but it's a one-game series.
But inexperienced, but the Trailblazers don't have a ton of postseason experience either, really.
No, they don't. But they've been a second round.
Second round, 2 of the last 4 years. So
but that's,
I don't know. Twitter did vote for the Trailblazers, so it's tight.
The problem is I get no
tight
vindication on this because it's never going to happen.
Well, I will say, by the way, we'll have to see where the Sixers are seated in the real playoffs.
Right.
If they are seated in the bottom half of the bracket, I think they could be an upset special. All right, let's move on to the Warriors region now. Warriors Nuggets. First matchup. Now,
another fun one.
Look, 15-2. What do you think, Chance?
If that game was in Denver,
neutral site,
it might be a longer conversation.
I'd like to, by the way, point out, Denver has beaten the Warriors twice this season.
Yes,
so for everyone saying, whatever, this is actually a matchup.
This is a matchup that the Warriors will be a little, not scary, but a little skeptical about. But the Warriors win the series. One gamer.
But the problem with the Nuggets is which Nuggets team shows up.
Yeah.
You feel that way a little bit about this year? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you look at them and you say, Jokic is unbelievable, and you say, Gary Harris, man, he might be one of the best two-way players in the game. How come we're not talking about him every night?
Big fan of Gary.
I mean, I am too. And so he gets this, you know, he's got to guard Curry or Klay Thompson or something like that. Maybe he slows them down. The problem with the Warriors is, fine, slow one of them down,
and then
there's Kevin Durant and whoever else.
It's not going to shock you. Twitter also voted for the Warriors. But take a look at this one, because next up we have the Thunder versus the Timberwolves. This is a 7 seed and a 10 seed. That usually in the NCAA tournament can produce some upsets. Jackie, whose big 3 do you trust more for one game?
So I hate to be kind of a wimp on this, but how healthy is Jimmy Butler?
We're going to just assume everyone's healthy.
Okay, well, if you assume everyone is healthy, I think the Timberwolves can give them a real scare for sure. I guess, again, in one game. But I feel a little bit about Russell Westbrook in a one-game situation that I do about LeBron James. So as much as I think it'd be a game, I'm going to stick with OKC.
Scare, yes, I agree with you there. The Thunder for sure in this game, in this one gamer. And here's why: Paul George, Carmelo Anthony. I'm not even going to mention Russell. We know what he'll do. They have deep experience in the playoffs, and that will come and be a factor.
So if the Thunder advance far in our jump singulation NCAA-style tournament, do you think that will convince Paul George to stay in Oklahoma City, even if they don't really advance far in the real playoffs?
PG, you better be listening today, man.
I know what they're all doing.
Twitter did vote for the Thunder.
Where you going? I'm going here. Where you going?
Next up, Raptors Jazz. Chauncey, the Jazz are second in the league in defensive efficiency. Does their defense keep them in a game against the Raptors?
I think it does keep them in the game, Rach. However, that all-star backcourt up there are not going to let this one go. The Raptors win this one-game series.
This feels chalky.
In a very good game, though. Yes.
It's the Raptors' time. It just is. Because look at their numbers offensively and defensively. They're so well balanced on both sides of the ball. And I think these guys have something to prove. And I know people say, well, that's nonsense. I don't think it is.
Yeah,
is it?
I think so too. The Raptors were indeed
They have something to prove.
the Twitter
And
vote.
when you have something to prove, don't you play better?
Absolutely.
This one, little upset special here. Our final matchup, Pacers-Wizards. Now again, I'm going to assume everyone is healthy.
So John
Wizards at
Wall's
11,
healthy.
Pacers at 6. What you got?
This is a tough one. So I just saw the Pacers beat a very, shorthanded Celtics team the other night, but I saw something at the end of the game that I haven't seen a lot of this year, and that is Miles Turner on the block. He looked like Kevin McHale with this way, that way, and up and in. It feels to me like Miles Turner is really hitting his stride. I had voted him for most improved, and I was a little disappointed that he didn't take a bigger step forward this year, but it's starting to feel like maybe he's rounding into that form. So just for the purposes of this wonderful show we're having, I'll take the upset and go with the Pacers.
I like where you're going.
Wait, the Pacers aren't the upset. The Pacers are the chalk.
Oh, they are. Okay,
Yeah.
so no upset. Sorry, disappointing.
Yeah,
I like
know
the
what?
Pacers.
I'm always a little disappointed in the Wizards, and I always think they can take that next step.
Yep.
Obviously, John Wall going down hurt the process a little bit.
Right.
The team got a little better, so there'll be another adjustment there. But they'll all be healthy in this tournament right here. But I'm going Pacers.
See,
Yeah,
all
I
right,
think
so
we
you
play
two.
really hard.
So please, people on Twitter, Indiana fans, don't be mad at us. This was a Twitter vote. Twitter vote picked the Wizards over the Pacers. Our experts picked the Pacers
I like the
over the
Pacers.
Wizards.
They're starting to
Keep
look-
that in mind. These are Elite 8, or your Elite 8, because y'all did the voting. The Jumps NBA Bracketology, voted by our fans on Twitter. So we will talk in the next round, in the next segment. Coming up after the break, Jay Williams telling us which one of these guys he would trust most with the #1 overall pick. You don't want to miss that. But first, here's our distant replay. This date, 1997. Chauncey, will you narrate for us, please?
This was a fun game here. Bobby Knight, pull-up 3 ball.
Yeah.
Jackie, you met me a couple
I
months
did,
after
right
the
after
Celtics.
this. Yep. You and I went to lunch. And
Oh, yeah.
I
Look at that,
paid.
Chauncey Billups. 24 points to lead Colorado to a first-round win over Indiana and Bobby Knight.
You know what? You look almost the same. That's pretty good.
With the exception of the hair.
That's pretty good, seriously.
Little grand.